Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, everyone, to New Earth Nation Radio. We have an incredible special lineup for you. Michael Tellinger will be joining us in just a few minutes. And we are going to be joined by Natalia Rose, also going to be talking about health and wellness, the beauty of the human spirit. So in just a second here, we will have Natalia Rose here. Santi, did you bring in Natalie? Santi is our producer today. I want to welcome everyone to the second show of New Earth Nation Radio Prime Time. This is where we talk about New Earth Nation. This is where we give a face to these faculties. We give a moment of unity where we can come together and say, great, here we are. We've got the project. Now it's going forward. And we are joined by Natalie. Natalie, how are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me on.
You are so welcome. So this is our second show. Thank you for being our second guest. You are the head of what faculty?
Of wellness faculty.
The wellness faculty. How did you come to this position, and how did you come to doing what it is you're doing?
Well, I guess a long way around. I guess going back to my early days, I was raised in Los Angeles in the entertainment business, and every message was you have to look a certain way to be affected in this world. This is what affected you. And so it's all about the external. It was, your body's like and we were aware. And that weighed very heavily on my spirit. And threw me into a lot of drugs that were really unhealthy. And it took me until I was, because I started on that sort of very negative path about 15 of doing anything I could where it really destroyed me, until I've decided to look in a more holistic direction, which ultimately was the path to my healing. And when I put those pieces together and started to see that more holistic understanding of the body, everything changed in my life, and I had to share it with the world. I thought, well, gosh, if I'm having this experience, then I'm sure other women are too. And it turned out that not only other women were having it, but other men were having it. And it ultimately just became all about liberating anyone who wanted to be liberated from that paradigm that would otherwise just shatter the human spirit. If in that from that perspective of image. And then the beauty of it, the whole thing was that as things work holistically, when the when the body started to heal and clear, so did the mind and the emotions, the heart, every aspect. And I was able to apply the same principles of seeing what was blocking the body and releasing it, and then living in harmony with the interconnected network of life on all those levels.
Would you call yourself an intuitive?
Well, I think I'm more intuitive than I was before, having done all this. I don't know if I'd call myself an intuitive necessarily.
Would you say it's more natural for you to be at this level of awareness because you're cleared of your blockages?
Definitely. I don't think I could have gotten here. I think everyone gets to greater consciousness in their own way, but this was my way, and it's just proven to be a really effective way for a lot of people.
Right, and everyone has their own way, and in the end, when we realize we're infinite beings, all of these finite choices will be true and have their own truth to it. It's because we create our own reality. Mm-hmm. We are a frequency that is programmable. We're 86% water. And what is water? Water is nothing but a program waiting to be received. And that's how we experience this life, through the waters, through the inception of the pregnancy and through all the different processes that the human body grows through. And we're coming to a day and age where people aren't accepting the old paradigm of the way the body grows, the way the body nurtures, and they need new concepts and they need places to share. And the health and wellness faculty is a place where people can come and learn how to detoxify themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I like to think of it as wellness as a path to sovereignty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Spiritual sovereignty is just as important as physical sovereignty. In my 20 years of being an intuitive and doing what it is that I do, I've discovered there are many types of people, and there are people that are into the physical laws of our world and are very empowered with spiritual sovereignty, and then there are the other ones that are like lawyers with no soul, even though they have a spirit inside them, they are a part of a system, and they are going through what I call karmic resolution, and their bodies pay for it horribly. And then there are other people that are on a spiritual sovereignty path, but on no physical sovereignty path, and are constantly like sails in the wind, constantly looking for inspiration, creation, and hope to drive them forward into this great hope that awakening happens and that brothers and sisters come together.
That's beautifully expressed.
So in this process, what brought you to New Earth Nation, and what brought you to say, I want to speak publicly and I want to share this?
I would say it comes down to resonance. When I saw what New Earth was doing, and I heard Sasha speak, and it was just my frequency, and I just so strongly resonated with it that I had to just follow my heart. I don't think I even went into the mental at all. It was just like, that's it. That's where I belong. That's the message of my heart. So it was that clear and that simple to me. And I've been sort of speaking loudly about it for a long time, so that part was nothing new. Yeah.
You're well versed in the art. So let's talk about what detoxifying means.
Okay, that's a great question because it's very widely misunderstood. So detoxification means that the waste and all the byproducts associated with the waste that accumulates in the body based on things that should never have entered the body to begin with are removed. So doing a juice fast or taking in vegetable juice or doing a raw food diet does not in and of itself constitute a detox or a cleanse. A cleanse or detox only happens when the waste has left the body. The raw foods and green juices and juice fasting are all wonderful tools for awakening the waste. But unless that waste actually successfully and thoroughly leaves the body, it's a hypothetical cleanse. It's not actually a complete cleanse in the truest sense of the word, or detox. So the detox is only in the removal of that which has accumulated.
Absolutely. And something that people will learn when you look at detoxification with a more open mind, where whatever pills you're taking are the physical aspect, but there's a mental aspect that one must trigger, and that's the true alchemy side of our body, where we're actively, consciously processing our detoxification by taking some form of herbal remedy or pill form that's going to help you go through the detox process, and then to add fiber and water to your body. So ultimately what you just said happens, because we're like a wick. And sometimes the detox process is a candle burning. And if you only light the candle for 5 minutes, the rest of the wax is still there. Mm-hmm. And that's detox 101 right there. You have a lot to detox. Your cell walls are holding all sorts of leftover stuff.
There's so much. People just don't realize how much accumulation is in the body, because there's so much space in the body. One of the there's some amazing natural laws that we're hoping to educate or help enlighten people on when they visit the portal, the Health Institute and the portal, the Wellness Institute, I should say. But basically, there's all this space in the body, and the body is meant to have all this empty space. Like the atom there's so much. If you had a football field replicated in an atom, the football in the middle of the football field would be the nucleus, and the electrons would be on the outer belt of the atom, would be on the very perimeter of the football field. And in between is all empty space. We're meant to have all this empty sacred space in the body. And what we do, though, is we fill that empty space with all this accumulation, and we think because we're still of a normal size that we're not actually full of stuff. But even very, very thin people are filled. Their cells, they're on a subatomic level, the atoms are filled with accumulation. And so if you do a little bit of shifting of the diet, it's good, but it's the tip of the iceberg. There's so much waste to be released, and you only know that you've achieved something when you start to feel that visceral hum again in the body, because we're supposed to be like little hummingbirds. We're supposed to have this amazing frequency vibing through us. And, like if you have stuff on harp strings or on an instrument and you try and pluck the string, it doesn't play. There's no sound. If we still have sort of, proverbial crud on our harp strings, we're not going to have that hum either.
Right. Our parasympathetic bodies and our visceral bodies need to go through the awakening. And that's the other part of what Natalie was talking about, fully letting go, giving your body the full chance to let down so the organs aren't in survival mode of the adrenal glands, which is our culture today. Mm-hmm. You know, once we detox, we have to realize that our body has been in this awkward processing of all these excess toxicities. We live in a very toxic world, not just the physical toxins, but the spiritual toxins that we all share with each other. You know, when people, walk into a room and you can feel the bad mood, that's because there's been bad energy in that room for very long periods of time, or somebody's really angry or somebody's really sad, and we pick up on that in our parasympathetic bodies. Oftentimes reach out and grab this energy and make it a part of us because we are naturally trying to help each other all the time. It's in our DNA. It's in our natures. But we have these programs that create these polarities of offense that take us into ignorance and intolerance, and then we build up other toxins, and those toxins affect the liver on a spiritual level. And that's why alchemy, when we are detoxifying our body and actively using products, whatever it is, that we are putting our consciousness and energy and belief into it so that we actually go through the process fully on all levels, that the cell walls that we don't perceive, that she was just talking about, get a chance to let down too.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of stuff do you recommend for a person that's never detoxed before?
Well, I like to use what I call the transition bridge as the sort of primary concept for people. That basically means that, so say we're talking about alchemy. So that's a great analogy. You sort of where you are now, maybe you're feeling a little bit more like a base metal, like lead, and you can envision yourself in your state of gold. Well, between the lead and the gold, there is this bridge, and you keep your sights set on the gold and you're becoming, but you just, all you have to do is take one step at a time across the bridge, and as long as you're on the bridge, you're at the party, you're doing it, you're fine. So the first thing to do is just get rid of the things that truly are destabilizing and detrimental to your body, or inflammatory and all of that. So all the obvious wrong things, the packaged foods, the processed stuff, obviously the fast food, the animal products to the best of your ability, just keep moving in that direction. And then you want to start increasing the frequency of the foods you are eating. So you want to obviously, get away from the GMO foods and the inorganic produce and choose organic produce and all of that. And slowly but surely, you work your way there until you wake up one day and you realize you're eating a significantly plant-based organic diet. And the other thing I would suggest is reconsider your attachment to what I call filler food. Filler food is the starchy stuff for vegans and vegetarians. It's the soy-based stuff and the starch-based stuff. So all the pastas and the bagels and the tofu and the seitan and the in the vegan vegetarian world, it can be just as bad as in the in the meat-eating world. So think about the filler food you're eating and realize that the best nutrition is coming from the leafy greens, the raw vegetables, the cooked vegetables, and segue around that. Now we have those foods, so it can be hard in the beginning, but you do recalibrate your palate. It does change, and your body's desires change. So you have to trust. There's a big element of trust that your body will start to enjoy those foods and be satisfied by them so much more.
Again, what she's saying has got so much truth. I hope people go back and really listen to those words. When we realize that the food we eat is also full of energy. So this organic movement, it's important to grow some of your own food, even if it's your own spices. You need to start looking at your world holistically, environmentally, and saying, I can create a change here by being a part of a movement that's growing my own food for my own self. Or going on through extended processes of detox so you can feel this inner sacred space. I just want to announce to everybody, Michael Tellinger will be joining us just shortly. He had another call he needed to do to make sure before he went on over here. So we are going to be continuing our interview with Miss Natalie Rose over here. She was originally scheduled for the second hour here, but with the Michael thing coming up, and we brought her in to introduce everyone to make sure everyone has the right amount of time. So in the New Earth Nation that we get to meet everyone that's here. We have a webinar coming up on the 20th of March, and it's going to be a 5-hour marathon show where there's going to be a bunch of people from Sasha to Greg to Michael to Natalie to Andrew from yesterday, and all the different faculty members are going to have an opportunity to speak to everybody in a really incredibly long format where people get to explain what they want. And these interviews that we are doing ahead of time are a way for the archives for people to go back and really look at a different faculty member and say, these are great. These are the types of things that we want to see from the New Earth Nation, so we can start putting and investing our time into the different faculties that are of our choice. And Natalie's of the Health and Wellness. What do you see for the future, Natalie?
Well, I think it all comes down, as I said before, it's wellness is a path to sovereignty. And as people reclaim their freedom and their sovereignty, there's 3 main points I would recommend people look at about when it comes to wellness as a path to sovereignty. One is that they're going to have to become independent of pharmaceutical drugs and modern medicine. It's just something that everyone needs to think about now. Maybe you're in your 20s and you still haven't had to dip into that world, or maybe you're in your 50s and you've already become, you already have a cocktail of things you're taking, like statins and other things. Statins, by the way, is a $29 billion industry, so it makes you wonder, whether that's really for people's highest good. But we have to remove our dependency on the medical industry, which once you kind of look into all this, you'll realize, if you haven't already, that it's just big business. That's one major thing that has to happen. You have to be your body, and you have to be educated enough about herbs and homeopathics and many other. There's some most supplements I would say are completely useless, but there's select few rarefied things out there that are really wonderful. But I would also stress that if you are eating out of alignment, if you're literally the food you eat and the way you eat it, if all those things are out of alignment, if you're not consuming, if what you're taking in isn't sacred and done in a sacred space, then you're still going to have issues, and all the best homeopathic and naturopathic substances in the world still aren't going to help. So it has to be, all of those angles have to be looked at too. But that's the first thing. The second thing is to really be able to see that the nutritional guidelines that we've been given in this old paradigm are utter propaganda for the food industry and food industry's corporations. So
Natalia?
Yeah.
We have Michael here ready. Would you hang on the line here, and we're going to interview Michael, because it's been really, really hard to get an interview with him, and we're done with him. We're going to come right back with you.
No worries. That sounds great.
All right. Okay, Santi, bring in Michael.
Hello.
Hey, Michael Tellinger. How you doing today?
Excellent. How are you doing?
Doing good. You are on the second show of New Earth Nation Radio. Welcome. How you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. So glad to be joining you guys.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure working with the New Earth Nation here, and Sasha and Greg, and we're going to be doing this big webinar that's coming up on the 20th, and we wanted to talk about the Ubuntu party here, and we know that you're getting ready to do some very big work in South Africa, and we wanted to give you a chance to feature some of your Ubuntu work.
Well, thank you very much. You caught me at a very critical time in the run-up to the South African elections, because the reason I'm late to join this radio chat is because I was finalizing the funding to pay the fees that the Ubuntu party can actually participate in the election. And we actually just managed to pull it off about 5 minutes ago.
Well, congratulations. We can hear that live on New Earth Nation Radio. Michael, that's so wonderful to hear. So what do we look forward to doing in the elections? What do you want to bring with the Ubuntu contributism? Well,
really, first of all, to give the people of South Africa a real alternative, a party that is a party of consciousness that understands the economic exploitation, the true economic exploitation, the crimes committed by our governments and the banks against the people of the country, and give the people that have woken up to this and know this information a real alternative at the voting polls, because all other parties are completely oblivious of this, and they keep promoting the same economic agenda that is shoved down our throats by the central bank. So that's really the first point of departure. And secondly is obviously our philosophy is one very clear one, that we have to start moving towards a society that is centered around people and their passions rather than banks and their controlling systems.
Absolutely true. We existed before banks. I know there are still societies out there that don't use banks, that use a natural form of energy in exchange for value. And contributism and Ubuntu takes this concept of life before money and tries to reintroduce it to the culture.
Yeah, and this is, the philosophy is starting to really spread quite quickly. I'm amazed at how it's taken on its own sort of life, and people everywhere are responding to us in ever-growing numbers almost on a daily basis. So that's really encouraging to see, and that people are starting to understand that we don't need money to survive and to live on this planet as a species, that we need each other.
Right. We need each other to contribute.
Yeah, it's people that do things. Money does nothing. People do everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what position are you running for in the elections?
Well, ultimately, it's running for president.
Running direct for president, that would be this coming election?
Yes.
Okay. I originally I thought you were going to run for your version of the Senate or the Congress, but you are actually running for full president.
Well, if we get enough votes, then and our party wins, then by default I'll become president. That's highly unlikely, but you never know how the people's minds will be swung and their hearts and their emotions by the time they enter the booth and put their cross next to their favorite party. But the most important thing was that until about 10 minutes ago, I wasn't sure if we were going to be actually in the elections. And I was freaked out because we didn't have the money. We've raised the money through the Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign already, but unfortunately they sprung a surprise on us, and they wanted the payment a lot earlier than we expected. And the payment has to be in by tomorrow, the 12th of March, by 5 p.m. And that's the equivalent of about 200,000 rand or $20,000. So we've raised the money, but I don't have access to that money as we sit today. So I had to go and find the money somewhere from friends and relatives to be able to deliver a bank guaranteed check tomorrow by 5 p.m. with a whole bunch of paperwork that I still need to do tonight to the Independent Electoral Commission in Centurion, South Africa, and secure our place on the ballot, which is going to be huge. So by this time tomorrow, we will know that we are officially in the elections, that the Ubuntu Party logo will be there, and that my face will be there representing the Ubuntu Party, and give people a real alternative and a real hope for the future.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. I would like to give you a chance to dream here a second. What would your acceptance of the president's speech sound like, just in concept?
Well, it's probably not going to be anything that people would imagine, but it would elaborate on human rights, the fact that we are sovereign human beings, the fact that we've been lied to and manipulated by the corporate governments and the corporations that control the governments, and that people don't need to be governed, that people can govern themselves, and inspire people to go and move into small towns and communities that they dreamt of living in all their lives. Those towns that they escape to on the weekends to get away from the madness, well, go and live in those towns and stay there, right? Mm-hmm. And start organizing themselves in their small communities of their own preference, and start creating the foundation of Ubuntu contributionist communities where they can start contributing towards the greater benefit of all the people in their community and not worrying about money. But the first thing that needs to happen is we need to close down the South African Reserve Bank and replace it with a people's bank that issues money for the people, by the people, tax-free and interest-free, to make the transition from a capitalistic, money-driven society possible to a society that functions without money and with the passions of the people. So there are a few transitional steps that need to take place, and it doesn't mean that it's going to take a long time. It just means that we need to start the process, and we need to make people realize that money is ultimately the hurdle to all progress. And the moment you remove it from society, you open up the opportunities for everybody, everywhere, to do what they want. And
I think we lost Michael there a second.
Well,
you're back now. Okay.
I don't know how much of that you got.
You were dead for about 4 seconds.
Yeah, I'm losing you again now myself.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So you were just talking about getting rid of the central bank and replacing money, and once money is gone, the people can be free.
Yeah, and realize that they can live in the communities they want to live in and not are dictated to. Most people today are trapped in the cities that they live in, and the large cities that have been magnets for people from the countryside and the rural areas have become giant traps for people. Once they get stuck in there, they
Okay, I think we've lost Michael there.
I'm back.
All right, you're back now. There we are.
Okay.
I think they don't like what you're saying.
Well, you know,
How about we change subjects, so we'll give the boys that are listening in a little chance to change away. So from the law and sovereignty side, what would the president do? It seems we've lost Michael again. Got the infamous bubbles and the old Skype.
Yes.
Yeah. Natalia, are you there?
I am here. Yes.
All righty. It seems Michael is being interfered with right now, and we'll see what we can do to get him back on the air. So, what did you think of what Michael was saying?
Oh, I mean, it's beautiful. I think if we were to, if enough people were just to embrace it and surrender to the concept of contributism, it would turn the tide completely, and we would show our children. We would live by example, and then they would be inspired to live likewise. I mean, I have 3 children. What am I showing them? I live in the center of New York City. I mean, I do the best I can from here, but you know, it's just very disappointing that we don't have but we're getting the group power behind it with all this great rise in consciousness, and hearing Michael speak about it. It's the only way I would have even known that there is potential for contributory society is because I've heard Michael speak about it. So, you know, the more people can hear this and vision it, we can birth it forward.
Absolutely. Again, it comes down to sharing. It's what the New Earth Project is about, is all those people that are already sharing to come together and share your common experiences of what works and what doesn't work, and then, you know, build teams from there. You know, the New Earth Project is here to help guide people into knowledge and in wisdom, and to make sure you don't make the same mistakes over and over and over again.
Right.
One thing the Ubuntu party can do, and one of the things I wanted to ask Michael is, well, from the monetary side, and then there's the law side, and the president can cut the red tape so these societies can be rapidly built in the countryside, and there's not these stupid commercial laws that say you can't do this, this, or this because they just want their money on a shakedown.
Right.
Building the New Earth Nation communities, you'll have a very different way of building a community.
Yeah, and it's just the release of the tyranny on it from every angle. Even when you think about go back to nutrition, the poor are at the mercy of the most horrendous food because that's all they can afford, and the whole political structure. So if we can remove those strongholds on every level, people can live as they were intended to live and be truly free to be in their hearts what they feel they want to be and contribute in the way that comes most naturally to them. I don't think humans are innately lazy or selfish or cruel or any of those things. I think we have to be trained very hard for many generations, for many millennia, to become that way.
Our DNA is memory. In fact, 80% of our DNA is memory. And when we look at this basic concept and we look at how we as consciousness can quantumly entangle with other consciousnesses, and then we put on the complexities of a physical body, we begin to learn how complex this world is, but yet how simple it is at the same time. The complexities is our cultures that we've created, the buildings that we created, the environments that we created. And the simplicity is we can leave them and return to a natural frequency that's in harmony with our DNA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that makes a lot of sense when it comes down to connecting with and basically we're information devices. We're like antenna, and our bones are like crystalline transistors. So we're exchanging energy and knowledge, information with everything around us. If we can bring that same concept to our network of the air we breathe and the trees and the ground, the earth thing, even the information the sun brings into our bodies, it's all an information exchange.
Yeah, it is an all in.
Okay, and we are live.
All righty. Here we are.
Hello?
Hey, Michael, how you doing there?
Excellent. Is this Andrew talking?
This is Andrew talking. Yes.
Andrew, that's amazing. I was just watching a video of yours this morning.
Which one?
Well, one of the sort of 20-part document series that you did.
Oh yes, those were some incredible videos, and I've done quite a bit since then too. Those are an incredible frequency that I was able to come out with in Mount Shasta.
Yeah, that was amazing, and I had no idea that I'd be talking to you this evening. So it's interesting synchronicity here. I was really blown away by the information you shared because a lot of it totally resonates with my research and what I'm doing. It's great, man. So good to meet you.
Oh, good to meet you too. And one of the things when I spoke to Sasha about doing this New Earth Radio Nation station, I'm like, well, the Galactic historian, getting to interview all these wonderful people, and I'm like, this is just totally in line with the frequency that I do. I'm here to help absolutely everyone in this world come to an understanding that our DNA is technology in every way, shape, and form, and the technology is how to interact with the dreaming mind of Earth. And our ancestors knew this. They did this through ceremonies, and they connected to their versions of the dream time and understood that there was a part of themselves that was here physically to experience something, and then there was another part of themselves in a completely another reality that was also interacting with this.
Yeah. Now listen, I absolutely just loved watching your unpacking of the events of the past. It's beautiful. Well done to all the work you've done, really.
Well, thank you, and well done to the work that you've done. I mean, you've brought out some concepts that have been, absolutely amazing. And one of the questions I've been wanting to ask you is about the long skulls that Bren Forrester's been talking about.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't really know more about them than probably Brian knows a lot more about than I do. But what I can tell you is that my research.
It seems we've lost somebody again here. Yeah, Michael's popped out again. So, it's been an interesting day of radio. Let's see if Michael pops back here in a second here. If not, we'll bring Natalia back on. Natalia, are you there?
I'm here.
There we go.
But I hope much rather listen to Michael.
me too. It's just Michael's got the Skype white bubbles in him. So, it's been an interesting day. Have you seen any of the material that I've done?
No, I'm just getting acquainted with it now, but it's most intriguing. I'll surely be spending a lot of time with it.
I shared with you earlier the contract revocations. You ever get a chance to look at that?
Yeah, not yet, but I will for sure after the call.
Yeah, it looks like Michael's dropped again. If we can get him back, we'll get him back. It would be really, really a great opportunity to talk to Michael. He's here. Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, I don't know who's messing with us, but somebody.
It's been quite a few million years before they let us talk live on air.
Yeah.
We've reached a point that we can actually talk on air and actually talk.
Yeah. Well, look, just to come back to this election in South Africa very briefly. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead. I would love to hear this.
It's that we've been given such a hurdle and a barrier to entry by the South African Independent Electoral Commission, which completely and utterly, undermines all the rights and of parties, political parties, to participate in an election. And once again, guess what is the hurdle? Money. Money is the hurdle. You go through all the trouble and the effort to register your party, to do all the necessary, the red tape and the bureaucracy, and get 1,000 signatures to register your party. And after that effort, which takes a long time, you then can't participate in the elections because you don't have $65,000. Wow, that's amazing.
Well, that is capitalism.
Yeah. And they call it free and fair elections. Yeah.
So as a president, what would you do to red tape and sovereignty and the laws? What kind of stuff would you write? I mean, taking away money takes away a lot of scenarios, but there are still things on the books that are laws that are of the worst red tape. What are the stuff there that you target first? Well,
in my book that I've just published on Ubuntu contributionism, I outline a lot of the stuff, and specifically as far as the law is concerned, the law that we have today is not law for the benefit of the people. These are laws that uphold the rights of corporations, and they completely undermine the rights of human beings. So all the laws, as we know them, will have to be rewritten and start from scratch, and basically allow communities to rewrite and recreate a whole new legal system that is written for the people, by the people.
In their community, with their cultural representations.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to preserve the culture everywhere we can.
Yeah, exactly. And we're realizing that they're part of a group of a community of communities, and each community needs to be there in support of the other community of need, just like individuals are there supporting each other. And it's a very simple principle. It's like the cells in your body. Your organs don't fight each other. The kidneys have to work together with the liver and the heart and the veins in your body. They can't compete against each other. They got to work in united harmony and work together for the greater benefit of the whole organism, the whole body. That's how I see the function of every community and clusters of communities. It's very simple.
It's simple, and that's our cosmos, in our body, the micro, and the macro that we're living in. And this whole process of human awakening is a global awakening. It's where I call we're coming into a global dreamtime society where we as a species realize on one level we're all connected, and in that connection we can find equality or equity, in which we can have zero balance of energy exchange between people at all times, so that all exchange for value systems are in the best spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I find fascinating about this philosophy of contributionism, and again, for people that are new to this is not something I came up with over a lunch shooting the breeze with my friends, but it's taken 10 years, since 2005, that I started to realize when I was writing Slave Species of God, when I realized that money is not part of human evolution. Money was introduced as a synthetic tool of control over humanity a long, long time ago, several thousand years ago, and it coincides with the introduction of the legal system that upholds the rights of those who issue the money against those who use the money. So I realized at that stage that something was wrong and that we didn't need money, and it's taken me 10 years to get to this point. And so often I speak about it with not realizing that some people are new to it and they struggle with the philosophy and the concept. But what I can tell everyone listening to this is that once you allow yourself to go past the first few hurdles of your own fear and start to embrace the possibility of a world without money, where people actually create abundance and not live on a planet of scarcity, but realize that we live on a planet of infinite abundance, and we are part of that abundance. Once we get past that first hurdle, you realize that the concept of contributionism, like we've just said, is really it follows the natural order of things, and it cannot be screwed up. You can't mess it up. It's not possible.
Because it's natural. It's the natural way of living.
And I've seen this now. In 10 years, I've had dozens of thousands of questions thrown at me. And in the beginning, it was horrific because I didn't have the answers. I didn't know. I was exploring it myself. And over time, I had to work through every possible scenario of how will this work without money? How will a world without money function? What will people do? What will societies look like? What energy will we use? How will we interact? How are we going to grow food and heal ourselves and all these things? And everything changes. It's a complete paradigm shift. Everything gets turned upside down virtually, because the current system we find ourselves in is a pyramidal structure of hierarchy, and the moneyless society turns the whole thing upside down, actually, completely upside down. And what I found is that no matter how complex the question is from somebody that is confused and new and wants answers, no matter how complex the question is, if you insert it into the system and allow the system to provide a solution, that's exactly what happens. Because everything that happens in these communities, the contributionist communities, is for the benefit of the whole community and the individuals at the same time. And it functions on what I call a minority rule principle and not a majority rule principle. And that confuses many people when you bring that up. But what it in essence says is that because we don't have to worry about capitalism and profit, and we worry about delivering what people need, every minority's needs can be taken care of and will be taken care of to the best possible level available.
Wonderful. Many years ago, I had a friend from South Africa, and he was describing Ubuntu, and he was relating a story to me, and it may be from one of your books. I'm not exactly sure. It was about some scientists that were doing a study on South African children and the way in their culture, and they had a bunch of food, and they would make them do races and stuff like that, and whoever would win would get the most amount of food and get to have their food. And when they had the series of races, noticed that whoever won would be very sad, and they began to ask them why, and they said the word Ubuntu. I cannot share this with my friends.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and unfortunately we're losing that philosophy very quickly, and you can see the agenda of the controlling structures that are trying to force that out of our human nature. They're changing our children into machines as quickly as they possibly can, that are completely self-obsessed and don't care about what happens outside and around them. And that's what we need to guard against, because at the moment, if we don't stop this attack against the youth of our planet, we're going to have zombies running around just, playing computer games and responding to commands by the computers that start to control the children.
And getting the children involved into something like Ubuntu that is represented in this matrix now as a 3D party, but it's more than that. It's a way to bring back that sharing concept, just like as I was relating in that story, abundance for everyone. And as I understand, there can be a possibility of a linkage between New Earth Nation and Ubuntu for helping spread Ubuntu parties to other parts of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about that for quite a while now. Sasha Stone and I are connected, and for the first time in November 2012 in Hilversum, Holland, at the Breakthrough Energy Conference, and our relationship has just grown stronger all the time. And as far as I'm concerned, New Earth Nation and New Earth Project and Ubuntu are inextricably linked at the hip.
Well, if you'd like, we can start a forum or a format here on this radio station and just set up something where it's, trying to organize Ubuntu movements for the new leaders. That
is, I think, absolutely critical. We have, Louise and I, unfortunately, we're just the two of us running the whole Ubuntu movement, and we don't have dozens of people or even 2 or 3 people helping us. At this stage, we have the odd person come in and help us, but the IT and the social networking has completely gotten the best of us. It's gone out of control. We cannot control. We've lost control of the administrative part of the Ubuntu movement, and it's become very difficult. And one of the things we have to do is manage and create. Well, we have an online forum, but I don't even know how to use it. This is how bad my IT skills are. Mm-hmm. We need to create a forum that works, that is easy for people in every country, and then in every state or province, and in every district and every city, to be able to connect to each other and start these Ubuntu groups that then grow into Ubuntu communities and start to implement small projects, community projects that start to benefit the people that participate, and see how quickly that grows into larger projects and larger effect of benefit. Once people start feeling the benefit of the projects that they're involved with, then this thing becomes unstoppable.
I just got a message from one of the head programmers here at the New Earth Nation website, and they are going to be putting in the Ubuntu party movements, everything we talked about in the forums. It can be done tomorrow. They said they could have it up.
Well,
so that can be run through the New Earth Nation portal.
Well, that's awesome. But the only thing is that it's going to need somebody to drive and activate on a daily basis.
Right, and that's what these daily radio stations are. Is we have a tremendous audience size out there, and the goal is to get this daily listening audience up and moving, and bringing on guests like you and Natalia and all the different heads and fellows, and get people moving, get the locomotion going here for 2014, because this is a time of change. And I've said this many, many, many times. Nothing happens in this world. Nothing. There is no awakening. There is nothing going to happen until we get up and make it happen in the same scale and size of the 1960s and 70s, but with new knowledge and wisdom to do it peacefully, to use the tools that's been given to us, because the system itself, it doesn't want to be in control anymore. There are individuals who still want power, but the system itself has done everything. It's reduced us all down to distilled versions of souls, using free will or not.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I do have a sense that, I mean, what happened today, from 1 hour believing that we've missed the boat, 3-4 years planning with the Ubuntu movement and the Ubuntu party to participate in the elections, 4 years of planning was about to crash, and then within 20 minutes or so, everything changed, and suddenly we are in the elections. And because I was able to make some phone calls and raise the necessary money from some friends of mine that have access to cash in a bank that can actually facilitate this, and it's incredible. So we've gone from almost not participating to and participating with under the banner of another party, because we didn't have the money and they had the money, realizing that they didn't have the money and they were stringing us along, and now we weren't going to be in the elections at all, to making some phone calls and coming up with the money, and now we're going to be in the elections under our own banner, the Ubuntu banner, and not hiding under somebody else's banner. So if this is not divinely guided, then I don't know.
And not only is it divinely guided, it's inspiration to hear that story live. I mean, literally 20, 30 minutes old. I'm sure there are going to be people that are coming back and are going to cut this interview together just to hear your frequency, and the success in your voice. And I've listened to a lot of your other interviews, and sometimes you're tired, and sometimes you're full of the spit and vinegar and ready to go. And this is a lot of work. For people that don't know what it's like being someone that's interviewed, I chose to come to New Earth Nation. I've done my own radio. I've done my own interviews. I'm very, very selective about who interviews me now, but it's the 60 to 70 hour a week job, and I know Michael traveling, it's got to be more at times.
It takes a lot of energy to do interviews and be sharp and be able to answer questions and make sense and do it in a way that you don't offend people. You know what it's like, but at the same time remaining yourself all the time, because people can people can sense BS. They know when you're making things up. They know when you're not being yourself. And very quickly, as people wake up and become conscious beings, they instantly know who they do not resonate with. And so I think that the leaders of the future are going to be people who just resonate absolute honesty and integrity, and nothing else is going to work.
Well, I think in the spirit of leadership, what we can suggest, and something that we can research here over the next time before we talk again, is how we can come together and get Ubuntu spread around the world, bringing together in a radio station format. Maybe once a month we can get together and do a podcast or something, and start bringing on other people that can be a part of the Ubuntu movement.
Definitely, Andrew. I think that's critical that we do that and make that a reality. And as I said, connected to what your friends there suggested from New Earth, a very active platform for people to interact and connect to each other, people in different parts of the world, so they don't feel isolated anymore. Because that's one of the common emails we get, thousands of them. Can you connect me with other people in Los Angeles or in Turkey or somewhere else that are part of the Ubuntu movement? And we just don't. We have thousands and thousands of names from all over the world, but we don't have the facility to do that.
That's right. So we can make a facility, and that facility is the social media networking. Through this radio station, which is featured on Blog Talk and then was going to be moved to the New Earth Nation main website, we'll be able to put a really good daily listening audience together. And that's where the Ubuntu movement can move to. Yeah. The world.
That needs to be the world. So ultimately what I'm hoping to see over the next 12 months is we already have members in more than 188 countries, I think, as it sits. Anyone can see it. Just go to the ubuntuparty.org.za website, ubuntuparty.org.za, and you can see how many countries, people from how many countries have logged in and have been watching and following our work. And what I'd like to see is political parties starting in as many of these countries as we can. Now, for people that
at the local level. The key is you have mayor's offices all around the world. You have local officials, local level. Don't go after the big first. Get your taste, get your success, get the grass in there, get that roots, get that support. Because again, Ubuntu is sharing, and you share it at that local level. When you go to the national level, you'll realize what the same red tape that Michael's going to face has faced.
Absolutely. But what I'd like to see ultimately is an Ubuntu party in every country, and creating a transnational, trans-border global movement with the same philosophy that becomes a very powerful, unstoppable movement of consciousness that is going to become the very near future example or
new way of being.
New way of being, exactly. And and it can happen so quickly, as you know. The consciousness is shifting very quickly, but people need something. They need something to grab hold of. They need to feel that there's something that they resonate with. And if it's just these loose radicals, people running around, that's great, but it's not enough. People need to feel comfort in numbers and of like-minded people of consciousness.
There needs to be a visceral knowingness that there's many and not few.
Yeah, exactly.
And once that visceral knowingness, our DNAs will remind us of all the other times we try to throw off the controllers.
Yeah. Well, this is why I think the fact that the Ubuntu Party is going to be on the election ballot this time in South Africa is going to be a huge inspiration for other countries to do the same. And imagine having millions of Ubuntu members across all the nations supporting every country every time there's an election in that country, supporting that Ubuntu party or the Ubuntu movement in that country. It is a very powerful force of
it is. And you have a marketing system here built inside at the New Earth Nation Radio. And what a suggestion we might do is that if there are people out there that are digital artists that maybe can do some Ubuntu Party artwork for you on a volunteer basis. You're going to need that, and you can use that as part of the Ubuntu Party raw paper movement, where if people want to run at a local level, they can just go and grab the flyer that says Ubuntu this, and it's got the definitions, and then you can just start printing off flyers, and just people have to download the PDF.
Yeah, we try to do that already, except at this stage our website is so basic and so it's really more of a blog than anything else. We don't even have the capacity to load documents on there for people to download. That's how low level we are, and we haven't had much support. We've had offers of support, but those offers of support have always fizzled out very quickly once we start talking to the people that offer their support. It ends up, I tell you what, every time somebody offers us support in the IT area, it turns out that it takes up so much of my time and energy that it completely messes up the rest of the activities that we're doing. Just to create a bloody website that's workable and useful, you know?
I'm thoroughly familiar with that one.
So it is just insane. Yeah. Silence.
Well, you know what? I'm going through the same thing of creating I'm working with somebody wonderful now, Santi, and he's really made this process streamlined and really easy for me, because I've tried to go through it myself with the web engineers, and it takes such an amazing amount of material. And someone like you and me, we have so much material that's already out there that it could take weeks to organize it all.
Yeah. So right now we need to create it looks like through New Earth Nation and our connection through New Earth, a relationship. Some of these things will become easier in the weeks to come, and I cannot wait, because there is a lot of material that needs to be loaded and made available to people. And also, like my activity against the banks in South Africa, there's a lot of material that I want to share, but I don't know how to do it.
Exactly. Well, what I think we can do is we're going to put an ad on the New Earth Nation station here. People that want to volunteer time to help bring some of this forward. We'll be able to put a volunteer organization together pretty quick. And here at New Earth Nation, contributism means volunteering.
Yeah. Well,
right?
the same with us, with the Ubuntu movement. Right now we've got volunteers that have come from all over the world at our Ubuntu village, where we are putting together the foundation of what will hopefully become the first truly contributionist community, and we're learning so much about where the obstacles, where the hurdles are. But at the same time, we've been getting so many compliments from people that have been joining us there and just passers by that are coming through because they've heard about it, and they come and stay at our backpackers now, which is finally ready and able to actually accept people to come and stay a few nights. People that have come through have been saying that the energy they feel at our little Ubuntu village sort of community, and as fledgling as it may be, they've been raving about it. It's like, saying that things like, I've been to many communities around the world and never have I felt such a sense of unity and common purpose. And that's amazing to get such feedback from people at such an early stage of our whatever you want to call it.
Well, I've got you your first volunteer. We've already got people registering at New Earth Nation to volunteer.
Well, that's awesome.
That's just the cream on the crop here. It's the icing on the cake for after what you've gone through in the last hour and 10 minutes.
But I also just want to say, to people that volunteer, especially in the IT side, please don't do this because you want to engage in debating the philosophy of Ubuntu and contributionism with me because you got some great ideas and all that. It's not going to happen. I don't have the time for that. As much as I'd like to, we get 1,000 emails a day, and that's why we've lost control of the admin because we can't respond to the emails. And everybody wants to, not everybody, but many people want to get into these long debates and discussions about the merits of a moneyless society and all that. So we really need people that are volunteering to help with the IT side and other areas in a whole diverse number of things, as you know, in the IT sort of related activities. People that really want to get their hands dirty and solve problems quickly, like we need to transfer all the content of our website without losing anything because there's a huge amount of information there. Transfer it somewhere else. That is going to happen quickly, painlessly, without me having to explain too much. Because it's not rocket science. It's quite obvious that needs to happen, and make available to us a place that we can upload documents, and it's just like a repository of where we can upload anything and everything, and people can download when they want to for whatever needs they have. Just little things like that, So don't offer your volunteering skills if you want to have leisurely debates with me or Louise, because it's probably not going to happen.
Right. He's not a pontificating philosopher.
Yeah.
Pontificating philosophers need not apply. We're looking for people that can spend a few hours and help Michael or New Earth Nation, move this Ubuntu concept forward so that all of the documents, all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom is freely available, so that people that are truly motivated to be the new leaders of this world and the New Earth world, and beyond New Earth Nation, the whole New Earth for everyone else. Everyone's a part of this awakening, even the rats and the squirrels, and the fish and the whales and the dogs and the cats and the birds. They're equally a part of this consciousness awakening, and they too will need a say in how our world is created.
Exactly.
All parts of nature are all part of the awakening. Why? Because we created this nature. In a spiritual form, when we first came here, we created this nature. We created this reality.
Well,
consciousness and energy depict the nature of reality.
Yeah, cheers to that.
So Michael, did you want to stick around a little bit, or did you want to take it easy and just let sink in what's happened to you so far?
I think I need to probably go do exactly that. Not only sink in, but I have a whole bunch of paperwork to do, which I need to fill in. This is now the red tape. I've got to fill in forms on behalf of the Ubuntu party. I've got to sign official documents, have them scanned, and get them through to friends of mine in Johannesburg that are going to have to deliver it on my behalf to the Independent Electoral Commission tomorrow with a check of 200,000 rand. So I've got quite a bit of admin work to do, and today was one of the toughest days I've had to face in a long time, and somehow we got through it. So I do believe now more than ever that we are divinely guided and protected, and somehow the Ubuntu outcome at the South African elections is going to be not what we expect.
I agree, and we here at New Earth Nation Radio are going to do whatever we can do to help promote you. You just get a hold of me or anyone here at New Earth Nation, and anytime you want to come on, anything that you want to feature, any material you want to talk about, even if it's pre-recorded speeches that you want to make sure people can hear, we can use the social media to target the South African communities and really put the power of social media to use.
Yeah, so the last thing I'd like to say to you, Andrew, and everyone that's listening is, please go into our crowdfunding website, the Indiegogo Ubuntu Party website, and disregard the last statement that I put there first thing this morning, because that is no longer applicable. Everything has changed so dramatically in 10 hours. It's just amazing. So just disregard that. I'm going to go on there now as soon as I sign off to change that information and encourage everybody to continue making donations towards the Ubuntu Party campaign, because now whatever money we got left after paying 200,000 Rand or 20,000 odd dollars, whatever money is left, we're going to use for the marketing and advertising campaign through social media networks. And in South Africa, there are some very interesting opportunities that I just discovered today, but they are going to cost money, unfortunately, and that's what all the excess money will be used for. So please continue making donations, no matter how small they are.
Well, if you'd like, we can do a New Earth Nation Ubuntu Party sponsored webinar to raise money for that.
Well, let's see if we can make that a reality. As you may know, I'm busy on a tour in Europe right now, and so this is more difficult to organize from somewhere in the center of France all the way to South Africa, organizing bank guaranteed checks to be picked up and delivered.
Well, I think we can just begin to talk about it. I'm sure the audience would love to hear it. We'll talk about it. I'll get a hold of Sasha, and we'll make it happen. So it's least amount of work on your side. All you got to do is call in and be ready to go.
Yeah. And that sounds great, Andrew, and absolutely. Let's try and do it when I land somewhere, and I've got a few days off in Holland, maybe in the next week, or because I'm not sure how it's going to pan out after that. But
okay.
From France, I'm off to Amsterdam, and then Groningen, and then we start the tour in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So somewhere, but hopefully in the next week, because I've got a few days off between Amsterdam and Groningen.
Well, that'll be perfect. I'll get a hold of Sasha, and we'll see what we can get going here. I'll get a hold of the marketing team here too, and I'm sure we can put something together. We've got a big webinar for New Earth Nation coming up on the 20th also, and that's their inaugural webinar. I'm sure we can put something together really fast.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks very much for all your support and your kind words. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. Again, it's contributism. I came to New Earth Nation Radio, and help anchor a system here, because I realize what this offers here. This offers a chance for people to come together and say, I'm ready to make a difference. I'm tired of sitting on the couch. I don't play my Xbox anymore. I'm tired of watching television. The Ancient Alien series are really awesome, but it's the same material now for 6 seasons. They're thriving and wanting more truth. And for truth to propagate more truth, we have to look at what's the untruth here. And the untruth is our history. And our history is incorporated into politics and government and the hierarchical order and the Babylonian societies and the societies that came before that. And then we look at our consciousness and energy and realize we've created a really unique reality that we're going to uncreate day by day by day by bringing love back into our hearts and clearing the toxicity that says ignorance and intolerance.
Yeah. I cannot support your statement enough. So I hope it resonates with everybody that's listening and that will listen to this in future.
That's right. Ubuntu. We all do this for everyone.
Exactly.
All righty, Michael, you take it easy. You sit back, relax, and then go and look at the paper you need to do, and give yourself more than a pat on the back and say, hey, you are divinely guided, divinely supported. Everyone here at the New Earth Nation is behind Ubuntu 100%.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate it, and great to meet you, and I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot more in future.
I'm sure we are. Take it easy, Michael.
All right. Take care. Ciao.
Bye-bye. And everyone, that was Michael Tellinger. That was really, really incredible. I think we're going to take a break now. Let me see. If we can get a break in here, that would be really good. And then we're going to come back with Natalia, the head of the Health and Wellness. We were talking to her earlier in the show. And then let's see here. I'm getting Skype messages left and right. Okay, those are congratulations. Natalia, are you there?
I'm here, Andrew. Hi.
Okay, we're just waiting for Santi to come back and load up a break. So, what did you think of what me and Michael were talking about?
Oh my God, I'm just sitting here like overjoyed. It's absolute heaven. Yeah,
we're on break now.
I feel. that expresses it.
You can still talk, Natalia.
Okay, yeah. Never mind. No worries.
Do you want me to cut it off again?
No. We're good.
Okay. So I'm going
bringing us live. Yep.
Okay.
That Michael Pellinger just shared with us. It's absolutely chart-topping. So, yeah,
chart topping is right.
Morning. Yeah, I got the news this morning at 7:02 in my inbox that they were going to go. Ubuntu was going to have to go under the umbrella of another party, as I heard about a couple days ago. And this just in is absolutely unbelievable and so wonderful. My heart is rejoicing for Michael and for the future of this beautiful Ubuntu party.
Absolutely. And to recap anyone that's just tuning in, we originally contacted Michael just shortly after the beginning of the show, and we began talking about the Ubuntu movement and how that literally just 20 minutes before the call, he was able to secure the amount of money that he needed and get through so that he can do all the processing the next day. And so it is good. The Ubuntu movement part is alive, and there's some amazing things happening there. So those people, go back and listen to that interview and stick around, and you can listen to the rest of the interview with Natalia. So Natalia, what direction do you want to go? We're introducing the health and wellness faculty. So here's your chance to shine.
Well, I think New Earth shines so well all on its own, but the idea is to
every diamond needs its facet.
Well, thank you for that.
And setting.
Okay. I'll accept that. And, I think ultimately just going back to what we were talking about before, there are these three pillars, I think, of what we need to know in order to see the path of wellness as a path to sovereignty, is how I would say. We said earlier that I mentioned the first two, which is to get off the pharmaceutical drugs, to be able to not have to have any dependency on the medical model. Getting over your addictions, getting over all the things that create these blockages in the body to begin with. So, that can be hard. And there's that transition bridge we talked about earlier. So you just get on the transition bridge and you put one foot in front of the other. But that has to be done because, we can talk about the legal aspects of our sovereignty all day, but if we're still attached to the things of the old world, then we're not really going to be free. We're going to be running back there to, stuck on that pacifier when we need it, and we don't want to have that. So that's the one thing. The second thing is to see through the nutritional guidelines that we've been given in the old paradigm and see how they've been used as propaganda for the food industry and which are corporations, for their well-being, not for ours. And the whole that pyramid, that nutritional pyramid we were given, and all that stuff, and the nonsense of starch being the biggest, the biggest portion of our intake, and there's everything from the need for animal substances for our sustenance. We are electromagnetic. We are conduits of energy. The worst thing in the world we can put into us are things that are not going to support that conductivity. So starch and animal products do not support that conductivity. Now, if we were living a few thousand years ago and we were taking in raw milk from our, cute little goats that were, playing with our children, as long as we weren't, taking more than they wanted to give, that's not interfere so much with our conductivity because there's so much alkalinity in that, a few thousand years ago scenario. But that's not the case today. You can't compare apples to apples. It's not apples to apples, I should say. We're in a quickly and exponentially acidifying environment, and that permeates all levels from the animals to the air, the water, and then you add to that the vaccinations and the chlorine and the fluoride and the bromine and the water and like the things that we're taking in. It's the perfect storm. We just can't look at these old things that they may have done a few thousand years ago and say, well, that was good for humans then, so it's good for us now. So we need to totally reevaluate that and dissolve all the things that don't apply. And then finally, this is perfectly in alignment with Ubuntu, which is we need to see how life truly thrives in an interconnected network. So the concept of Ubuntu, I am what I am because of what you are, is the same in the body. And as Michael Tellinger was saying, I loved what he just said about organs needing to work in a united harmony, the greater benefit of the whole organism. That was perfect. That's exactly what we're talking about. So that works in community, and that works in the body. So, you know, the liver is only as healthy as the heart, and the blood is only and the blood and the lymph, and it's all working together. If one is out of sync, the whole thing's out of sync, and we just kid ourselves if we're not willing to look at that. So if we can see that all systems thrive in this interconnected setup, then we won't give we won't let that get filled with occlusions. And like we talked about the instrument earlier, we won't let crud develop on our heartstrings, because we can see that then our hearts won't be able to sing. Then our minds won't be able to come up with the ingenious, creative concepts that will take our species to the next level. I mean, it's all when everything's flowing and conducting, there is no end to what can be created. And we've only, you know, we've been set back in our evolution. So, you know, our perspective is a bit skewed. We need to clear all that stands in our way, clear all that skewedness, get back in alignment, and then start to open our eyes and look, or then see what the road offers us.
Absolutely. A lot of times when you're what's saying skewed is what I call our programs. Mm-hmm. Programs are cultural programs that says to act this way in traffic, or to act this way in line when there's somebody paying in pennies, or there's this way to have a religious response to a certain type of activities that are around you. Those are all programs. When we are not fully in our heart and we are responding through culture, through the fact that we're trying to be a oneness species, but no one has the activated gene for telepathy, and people do things such as culture, and then they follow the common ways. When we detoxify ourselves of these programs, we look at why we allowed them in the beginning. Oftentimes it comes back to your childhood. When you are young and growing up, you are a sponge, and I mean a sponge to the physical energies in a room. So if a mother and father are arguing over money, even if they're not in the room, you are still absorbing that energy. And this program of lack or lack of abundance begins to take hold of you at a very early age. And those are other examples of learning how to detoxify our mind so our soul has this sacred space to function, so dreams come true.
I love that, Andrew. Absolutely. And speaking of that, you know, we have these sacred centers in our brain, and that's part of our endocrine system. And the pineal, the pituitary, the thyroid, they all work together. And if our brain is infiltrated with all these images and these programs and these chemicals that we're getting from so many different places, and the heavy metals, then those aren't even able to operate properly. They're all dormant. So again, it goes back to this concept of what could we really be if we cleared all that away? And the programs, oh my goodness, I mean, the programs around consumption are, you know, another category entirely. But you know what's really interesting also about, you know, when we consider contributism as a community concept, there's also with detoxification, one sees that we just have fewer needs. So if somebody's sitting there kind of chewing on the concept of contributism, or the contributory society, they might think, well, what about this and what about this? But the thing is, you don't really need anything. You know, when you're a sovereign human being and your system is clear, you're self-satisfied. You don't need to use people for their, you know, even, I mean, yes, you love companionship, but it's a conductivity. It's not that you need them to fulfill an emptiness in you, or that you need to go shopping to fulfill some unfulfilled desire, or that you need to eat to fill something. Everyone's taking and trying to fill themselves up because they're not whole, but you can't be whole and self-satisfied until you've cleared all this stuff out. So the more we clear our bodies out and the rubbish and the programs and the minds and the emotional field, the more we can look at this concept of contributorism and say, well, this is perfect because this is how I feel. I'm naturally vitalized and excited to share. And I know what my gifts are because they're coming through me so effortlessly. And it all comes back. It's the puzzle just comes to life. The pieces come into place.
When you were going through your awakening process, that's a common light worker terminology. What was it like for you?
In what way?
Awakening to the world's much bigger than it is.
Yeah.
To realizing that you can make a difference, that one person does make a difference, that made you, who you are, the person today. This whole process of self-empowering.
Yeah, I would say I went through several stages, and there was a big stage there of anger at all the lies that I felt I'd been told. As it started to clear out the path, I thought, how is this possible that we're all sitting amongst these lies and accepting them? And when you wake up and you're like the only person that you know of in an area who's awakening to it, and you're seeing it so clearly, into a lot of anger, not knowing how to express it, but feeling like the only way I could really express it would just be to go out and exercise and just kind of physically channel it. Or I would listen to a lot of music that was kind of expressing it, and that sort of thing. But the anger was a big stage, and then there was the frustration of anyone you wanted to speak to about it kind of thought you were weird. And so then there was the rejection from the tribe thing, which I experienced quite a lot of.
And that's built into the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what creates these countercultures. And the system that we live in is trying to constantly materialize and monetize the countercultures. That's how they've always affected the countercultures in history. Look what happened to the 60s and 70s generations. They're the lawyers, doctors, and governors of today.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly. Right.
Why? Because they grew up. They grew into a life that realized that the government did have power to stop a movement, which it did. It flooded the world with drugs of all of the worst kind, that brought on poverty of some of the worser kind, that brought on alcoholism, that brought on abuse rates, that brought on children being born way early, and it brought on what? The weight of karmic life. Okay, and that weight of karmic life is what we in this generation have to see. We don't have to accept this karma that the system is sending to us as debt. When I say system, that's everything in this world. It's the uncollective working against us from forming a collective.
Wow.
That's what the heads of the worlds are. They're the uncollective going, no, we are in control. And the collective, which is our ethereal selves in our dream world, going, you can wake up from this and declare your spiritual sovereignty and say, I do not consent to the energy harvesting of this world, the sacred geometry buildings or the news broadcasts that send out, transparent lies. And I call those transparent lies because at this point in history, you really don't know the truth from the falsities. You don't have access to your DNA memories. I happen to be a person that has access to my DNA memories, but I went through a whole lifetime of experiences to understand them. For people that know me, I can read the Akashic Record live. I need not be in a trance. Past, present, or future, 52 million years, 100 million years ago, the creation of the universe. That's what I spent my childhood exploring and expanding and understanding and living in multiple galaxies and universes. I'm just as different as everyone else, but I'm also just one snowflake amongst a bunch of millions of beautiful and unique snowflakes. There are people out there that can shine so bright that they can not have to be a fruit vendor who sets themselves on fire to trigger a rebellious response.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, yeah.
So, have you done intuitive work before?
Well, like I said, I think I'm more intuitive than I ever was because the clearer I've become, and I kind of surprise myself sometimes because I put things together that I only realize, after the fact. Like I get the bigger picture on something like, wow, I actually was sensing that. So I guess I'm on the road to being ever more intuitive, but I'm not not to the degree you are.
We are always intuitive. And the degree of me is the years of practice that I put into the discipline, because that's the way I needed to learn how to function as a kid, with the volume of information that was going through my energy field at any given point in time. And we as human beings can adapt as children. And the children that are growing up now, one of the reasons I incarnated here and I'm aware of my different incarnations is so that this generation breaks the social agreement on time and takes the responsibility for the next 7 future generations, which is you set up a system of honor and respect for the DNA skin suit technology that created all the problems in the first place, thus the system that we live in, that we are asleep in one side and awake in another side, seeing ourselves go through these processes of learning. The key is there is no separation, and the I am presence that here is part of a graduation awakening timeline where we begin to realize how long we've been in this process of learning and experiencing. And this great time right now that we all live in just so happens to be the internet age. And this internet age has brought something as a concept of New Earth Nation. And people like Greg and Sasha have put together this project and put 14 years of hard work, 94 plus volunteers, a humanitarian organization, interviews, radios, and now we have a webinar coming up on the 20th where everyone, all the different faculty heads are coming together. This is the time. This is the quickening where people run to the frequency that says, I recognize this truth and change. I recognize contributism. I recognize wellness. I recognize all that. How do I make it a part of my life?
Yeah. And the only way to go is to incorporate every category.
Right. Leave nothing out.
That's the only way. We talk about putting the puzzle coming back together, but only when we put it together in ourselves. So we've got to. Any part of ourselves that's been pulled away from us, and we've been sort of split into pieces by all the lies and all the confusion and all this misunderstanding. And so we have to slowly but surely, and that takes a lot of awareness. It takes a lot of witnessing yourself and why you do what you do, and following your thoughts and your actions back to your belief systems, and dismantling all of that. Those programs that we were talking about earlier. So it takes a certain amount of effort, and it takes a certain amount of courage, willingness to go into the depths of yourself without becoming to be self-centered. There's 2 approaches. There's you're self-centered because you're centered in yourself because you've cleared away all the nonsense, and then there's the one who just can't stop is focusing on all the things, but because they've become addicted to this looking into themselves, and that's, you can get lost down the rabbit hole and never come back up again if you do that. But we do have to put it all back together again, very, very clearly, very deliberately, and energetically, because it takes a lot of energy. And you can often, if you do find yourself, I just want to mention to people who are doing this, if you find you're getting tired, you just need to maybe take more naps or something, because then you must surrender to that, even if it means, well, maybe changing your lifestyle a little bit to make that happen. It doesn't last forever, but there's a period where it happens for most people I've spoken with. They just have maybe a couple of months where they're particularly tired, because you are doing such huge work when you're dismantling all these old programs. But and in your sleep time and your rest time, a lot gets repaired.
Yes, a lot gets repaired. And I call that the dream time. That's when our mind relaxes and goes back to the heart. Are you aware there's a brain in the heart?
I've heard that. It's a beautiful concept, and the toroid, the heart apparently is a toroid too.
Correct.
But, yeah.
If you actually look into fetus biology, when the fetus is first forming, it is a heart. There are no legs, there are no spine, there is no brain. The brain forms on the heart, and then that piece of brain grows to the side, and then it grows to a spine, and then the spine grows up and grows a second brain. There's also another brain that goes down into your gut. So there's a brain in the gut. The brain in the gut is where we go, where the mind goes into the heart, and then the heart goes into the heart of the gut and activates the dreaming body. The dreaming body goes to the heart and it combines itself so all the hearts are into one, and that's how we connect to the frequency of the dreaming mind of Earth. That's spiritual mechanics of dreaming. Where you go to your dream world will be up to you. And we live in a frequency soup where everything is being thrown at us and broadcast at us, and our sacred spaces are harmed at many different levels. And in the spirit of sharing, I'd like to share with here the audience what a contract revocation is. And these are going to be up on the New Earth Nation website here. These are something that I promoted for quite some time. And this is the spiritual contract revocation for the divine masculine. And when I'm done with this, I'd like to talk to Natalia about how defining boundaries really makes a difference in human life here. So just give me a second here and I'll read this. This will take about 3 minutes. I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves, and existence in this dimension and time stream, and all time streams above and below the earth-centric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creative moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestors to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that I have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth and puberty process. I call forth the proper spiritual court of equity to hear my decree of contract removal. I call forth all ancestors of all soul relations to hold space in this spiritual court of equity. I call to Mother Earth and all her light denizens with all inner and outer space to come forward and occupy this spiritual court of equity. O great mystery, who is the source of all power, I call to you. Come with your sacred synchronicities so beings may hold space with unity consciousness. Bless me as I walk the sacred soil. Bless me as I breathe your sacred air. Bless me as I warm myself with sacred fire. Bless me with your sacred waters of life. Bless me as I learn to walk them with personal power. I call to Great Spirit who lives within great mystery. You, the powers of Mother Earth manifested, I call to your wisdom in this I am moment. Today I travel the great unknown. Grant me the wisdom to be humble. Grant me the wisdom to love, even when love is not returned. Grant me the knowledge to balance my way of being, so I may heal my family, my tribe, my nation, and our Mother Earth. I am ready to invoke my natural rights as a sovereign male being born to Earth Mother through a womb of a sacred feminine who was also born this way. I invoke my natural rights as a being of Earth Mother. I was born under the natural laws. With this wisdom of my natural birth, I now reclaim my place in the natural world. I revoke all energetic contracts with all people I've had sex with that was influenced by propaganda-based mass media or pornography. I return myself to the 0 point of the fetus in my mother's womb. I revoke all contracts with all perverted sacred masculine mystery schools who have operated with false information or who have created a patriarchal-dominated society. I cancel, cure, or delete all contracts that perverts the sacred masculine during the birth canal phase of life. I revoke all spiritual contracts that create a sense of competition between the male species when dealing with any sacred feminine expression. I revoke all cultural taboos that create emotional distancing from women. I revoke all perverted spiritual contracts that place me in the incorrect sex that I chose before my birth. I revoke all contracts that create perversion of the male expression of sensual behavior. I revoke all contracts that house, hold, or store my sacred masculine energy to promote male-dominated sports, activities, or entertainment that demoralize or degrade the sacred feminine. I revoke all systems of patriarchal domination of the family unit. I return all definitions of family to Earth Mother so remedy and resolve can be endeavored between all families now healing the patriarch concepts. I revoke all cultural contracts I incarnated or reincarnated with that create a male-dominated society structure. I return the sacred feminine to its proper place as equal partners in this co-creation of life. I remove all spiritual contracts with all religions I have existed in that do not give full rights, duties, and responsibilities and total equity to the sacred feminine and masculine. I revoke all spiritual contracts that retain me in any way, shape, or form or force me via soul contracts to serve in war. I delete all patriot programming that creates a lust for war. I revoke all spiritual contracts that define the male as war-oriented. I revoke all contracts with all governments I have served with during all times of war. I revoke all spiritual contracts to create a war-based, male-dominated military-industrial complex. I revoke all contracts that create a male-serving, servicing sex industry that dominates women in any way, shape, or form. I revoke all spiritual contracts that create a sense of uncleanliness within my sacred masculine expression. I remove all contracts that keep me trapped in shame, blame, or guilt created by perverted masculine or perverted feminine personalities whom I have lived with in any time or space. I revoke all contracts with the incubus and succubus grids I may have dealt with in all of my past, present, and future lives. I hereby banish the entire incubus and succubus grid from my reality for all of eternity. I hereby revoke my entire citizenship to all representations of kingship, dictatorship, religious monarchies, religious councils, or representative government concepts. I hereby permanently remove myself from all Dreamtime societies interwoven with the system of domination and control that caused the erasure of oral teachers and historians throughout the entire indigenous world. I hereby revoke every decision I have ever made while in service to the system of domination and control. All decisions made for me by a male soul contract holding representative of government are now placed in a proper spiritual court of equity with all ancestors present so they may find remedy and resolve, not justice or judgment. I now state with full sovereign conviction that I, Andrew Bartzis, am now fully present in the mighty I am self. I declare from this point forth I now operate with a permanent spiritual court of equity when relating to healing the divine masculine or feminine, so perversion never re-enters my field. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is now in dominion with me for all forms of interpersonal relations for all sentient kind existing and coexisting on Earth Mother's realms. I call forth all ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of free will at all times.
Sure.
It's powerful, isn't it?
That made thing an extraordinary thing I've ever heard. I mean, could we all have a copy of that?
That is going to be available. It's available right now on my webpage, andrewbartzis.com, and this will be also on New Earth Nation. I'll pop a copy in here. If you think that was powerful, I'm going to send you the Sacred Feminine. That's amazing. What did you think of it?
Oh my gosh! I mean, it was. There are no words. Honestly, there are no words. And I guess first of all, in and of itself, it just needs to settle. It's honestly too amazing. Now, the next thing that comes up though for me is, how do you get that to stick in the sense that
it's a frequency that you have to bring to yourself every day, and remind yourself that these are boundaries. If there's some stuff on there you don't like, you don't use. When I wrote these, it was to define how far the system is in your life so that when you need boundaries, so your sacred space can grow and yet you're not stuck in the same crab shell your whole life.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I hear you on that. Now, if you, though, say you're in a family. Okay, let me take myself as an example. I'll just throw myself out there on the fire. And you agree with everything in that, and then the Sacred Feminine. There'd be one that maybe say I would come up with to reflect my the details of my own contracts that I wanted to shed, and then you own that. You feel it. It runs through you in terms of your frequency and everything. But then you interface with your world, with those who are in your world, with the patterns and the frequencies outside, and they can break it down a little bit. They can almost make you feel silly.
I will show you right here the question you're asking. If you look inside the Skype contact, you'll see a room over here. You'll see a PDF contact. Just go ahead and download that. And there's going to be one there for the Divine Feminine. And the experience that you had, me hearing this and you reading this completes the cycle of what you're asking of how to let go, because we are both male and female. And there are times in our life where we have very male energy as we're going out and a hunting-gathering part of our DNA versus the home life part or the hearth life part of our growing phase. And those are still representative when we're functioning in survival mode or adrenal gland mode, which many percentage of our population are doing right now.
Okay.
Okay, so once it downloads, just open it up and look for the one that says Revocation for the Divine Feminine. And I wrote this with Hope Girl early in December. And I wrote all the other ones. When I wrote it, I needed to have a feminine perspective here. Just open it up and scroll to the side that says the Revocation for Divine Feminine. And just read it out loud. And you will have an interesting experience. Tens of thousands of people have read these and have had amazing experiences from them.
You want me to read it now?
Yeah, just in the heart of sharing.
Okay, sure. Soul contract removal to free the divine feminine. I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves and existence in this dimension and time stream, and all time streams above and below the Earth-centric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage, ancestors, to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth process. I call forth the proper spiritual court of equity to hear my decree of contract removal. I revoke all spiritual contracts with earth-based religions, cultures, belief systems, and industries that dominate and control the divine feminine power in our world and create an energetic imbalance that affects every man, woman, and child on the planet. I call forth all ancestors of all soul relations to hold space in this spiritual court of equity. I call to Earth Mother and all her light denizens with all inner and outer space to come forward and occupy this spiritual court of equity. O great mystery, who is the source of all power, I call to you. Come with your sacred synchronicity so all beings may hold space with unity consciousness. I hereby revoke contracts of all religions and cultural belief systems that place the feminine in a dominated position of inequality. These include the projections of unequal pay, the inability for a woman to earn a living, own land or a business, or receive an education of her choosing. The feminist movement that was created and funded by the CIA to separate a woman from her divine feminine power, foster a hatred for men, and create separation and division in the soul family unit. I hereby revoke all cultural belief systems that create the expectations of a, quote, woman's duty to hold an unrealistic burden alone and suffer in silence. I do not consent to all social policing systems that have been put into place to make a woman feel like she is too sensitive, too emotional, or out of control in the attempt at gaslighting a woman's soul to make her feel like she is unstable or insignificant. I hereby revoke all contracts of cultural belief systems where female children are murdered at birth, sexually mutilated as a supposed, quote, rite of passage, sold off into a billion-dollar child pornography industry, or trafficked as sex slaves. I do not consent to the porn industry that has been the breeding ground for sexual or spiritual contracts and the exploitation, degradation, victimization, and bastardization of the divine feminine power. I hereby revoke the following spiritual sexual perversion contracts that are targeted at separating a woman from her divine feminine power. All group sex and polyamorous programs that are all a perversion of divine sexuality aimed at making a woman feel that she is somehow not enough. All double standards in cultural belief systems where recreational sexual promiscuity, multiple wives, harems, and mistresses are allowed and celebrated for a man but cause social ruin for a woman. All programs that create projections that men put on women while masturbating, as well as perverted fantasies that are used as a barrier between the heart space of a man and a woman in a sacred sexual bond. I do not consent to these spiritual sexual perversion contracts. You have no power over me. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is in dominion with me, as well as my soul family and my ancestors. I declare that I am now clean from these projections of sexual perversion, and I return to the source of innocence as a divine feminine sovereign being. I hereby revoke all contracts and concepts created in innocence or blissfully ignorant states of being, I hereby declare a new form of spiritual and physical cleanliness. I revoke all previous self-created concepts of cleanliness and any perverted attachments to myself. This new invocation of cleanliness removes all previous concepts of sacred sexuality, sensuality, recreational sex. I bring them all back to the 0 point of the fetus in the mother's womb. I reconnect all my DNA strands to that of the heartbeat of Earth Mother. The sacred feminine is connected to her heart in her sacred feminine space and does not deny her menstrual cycle. She accepts it as a time of introspection, retrospection, and reflection. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the entertainment and advertising industry, programs of self-hatred, low self-esteem, self-medication, self-mutilation, eating disorders, etc. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the medical industry that have damaged a woman's health and ability to reproduce according to the natural laws of Mother Earth. Birth control drugs and other chemicals in our food, water, and air that cause sterility or over-sexuality, as well as clothing that is damaging to a woman's health, such as bras, heels, corsets, bound feet, and tampons. I revoke all birthing contracts created through C-sections, pregnancy drugs, prenatal x-rays, vaccinations, incubations, children who are not put on their mother's heart after birth, removal of the placenta, and cutting of the umbilical cord, which can stay intact for up to 4 days to allow for the child's heart to bond with the mother and father. I revoke all contracts that force a woman to carry and birth a soul that is not of their co-creative divine choice, with their selected or bonded sacred masculine. This includes rape victims, teenage pregnancies, and forced or arranged marriages. I return to Earth Mother the natural incarnation grid. I now permanently delete the reincarnation grid from my soul existence. I do not consent to all programs aimed at making a woman feel too fat, too thin, too old, too young, too black, too white, too ethnic, too rich, too poor, or any projection at all that makes a woman feel that she is somehow not good enough. I hereby declare that I am more than good enough. I am infinite consciousness. I am God, Goddess incarnate. I am a sovereign being, and I hereby reclaim my divine feminine power in this spiritual court of equity. I call forth all the ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of free will. Sure.
That was amazing.
Wow. Well, that sort of sums it up.
Yep. When you see the male and the female side, everything. That's what you don't want in your field. That's what you don't want in your sacred space. That's the toxicity you talked about. We've just given it frequency. We have just given it form. And now that you know it, this is what you eliminate from your life. This is what health and wellness is really about. Knowing what's in your sacred space and what is not.
Yeah.
That's the nature of in knowingness or not in knowingness. A long time ago, I was in an unknowingness state when I was 3-4 years old, trying to figure out what this world was like, and you know, I would try to explain to my parents, you know, I could see things, and they had a very Greek understanding, and it was very difficult for them to understand what I was talking about. And then there was a scenario where I was at a baseball game, and you know, bottom in the 9th inning, and hit a home run, and everyone started cheering, and the whole infinite consciousness of the stadium came into me. And it was a moment in which I began to understand how old my soul really was, but I was just a young little kid. And I've adapted by not allowing these things into my field and seeing them everywhere, and then adjusting myself to function in this reality and realize how deeply toxified people are.
Wow. Well, you know what's amazing about this too is that, you know, as we talk about contracts, one of the biggest issues that comes up when it comes to detoxing on all levels is the tension in the body.
Yep.
So tension is, and it's so interesting because tension and contraction is a similar concept. So like the things that create fear in us cause us to contract. Everything that sort of the opposite of everything I just read causes us to contract. All the things that took us into that space cause us to contract. And isn't it interesting that it's also called contracts?
Yep, right. Exactly.
Yeah. So in doing this, if we can, in releasing this tension and releasing this contraction, the pathways of the body will function much better. Everything will move much more fluidly. And I like to, when I need to kind of check myself, I like to think about the sun and how the sun gives its warmth and light, but it gives its warmth and light to everyone. And in earthly form, it's gold. So gold is concentrated sunlight. And we know that, you know, gold is shiny and pretty, but it's also malleable and it's incorruptible. And the malleability, the fluidity of it, and the incorruptibility are two aspects, two qualities of gold and sunlight that kind of help me center myself. And so and also we know, just to kind of bring this full loop, we know that a yogi will say you're only as old as your spine is flexible. Yep. So it all comes back to this fluidity and the organs, the pathways, the blood, the lymph, the colon. If once we release this tension in the body, the contracts, that without even changing your diet. I mean, definitely, you know, I'm not saying don't change your diet, don't detox, but just doing that alone will enable, releasing all this stuff alone will enable the body to become much more fluid, become much more like the sun, like the qualities of gold, and ultimately take on and have the potential to take on this incorruptibility, which we need to have to enter the contributory society concept.
Exactly. We got a question from the chat room. Does he suggest we read both regularly? Absolutely. Contract revocation is declaring your boundaries. And there are people that can have intense experience out of reading these contract revocations because I wrote them. There's one for banking, one for government, and one for media also, if people would like to go and view those. Read them out loud. It's important that you read them out loud, that you hear your sovereign voice. And if there's stuff you don't like in there, take it out. And I advise everyone, write your own. What you do is you take the beginning of it where you open the spiritual cord of equity, and you take the end of it where you close the spiritual cord of equity. And everything in between is you speaking your sovereign boundaries, telling the energy how it can interact with you. And for people, some of it's going to be daily. If you're living in the big city, you have to be aware that dream harvesting entities are common in the big cities like New York. And if you don't really take care of your space energy-wise, it's very, very easy for them to get into your dream world. Very, very easy. You have internet everywhere. You have all of the different stations that are omnidirectionally broadcasting, cell phone or Wi-Fi, and all of that affects your dreaming body, how your heart and your gut function when you're going through the frequency shift from that of the mind to the heart to the gut, and then gut back to the heart. Your body's going through a frequency shift, and as you're constantly being bombarded by the internet waves or the cell phone waves or the scalar waves, your body can't process the fluids that need to go from one stage to the next stage to the next stage, which is how your endocrine system functions with the alchemy of spirit. As our DNA light body comes into this physical body, which is technology, which is the matter of Earth, and the matter of Earth is the mind of Earth, and we are interfunctioning in the dream world of Earth to create a reality. A reality is consciousness and energy. That is the nature of reality. And the nature of the reality that we're functioning in with contract revocation is the center of the heart, where the heart and the gut is in the heart of the heart, and the heart of the mind is in the heart of the heart. And that's that 0 point of the fetus where we can see zero balance in all karmic resolution, where we owe no debt. That's the whole point of getting contract revocations. And there are people that will need to do them every day simply because they have much work to do at realizing they don't have to pay a debt that they never created.
Wow. I'm going to take a leap right now and ask you something that I think maybe there's some other listeners that may be asking or wondering, and that is, what do you do if? How do you share this with a partner who might not, a husband, a wife, a life partner who may not really be that conscious about this sort of thing and might think it's kind of extreme?
Anything as in like the spirituality stuff, or is this person very 3D?
Specifically, this what we were just reading, this personal alignment with a new state of being and taking on new resonance based on what we just read.
Okay, well, if they're not willing to read it out, they're a closed-minded person, and everything takes an open mind or a closed mind to do. And if one wants to look at it from science, we're choosing to quantumly entangle or not quantumly entangle. But just by observing it, we're quantumly entangled. And when you have somebody that's a life partner, you're quantumly entangled on the dream level. And usually that's some lesson that either the person's constantly ignoring that's within their karmic past. I frequently read this, and I get this in couple sessions that I do, where people want to know why their past lives are affecting them. Most of the situations, it's not past lives as much as is ancestral karma that's affecting people to not look at spirituality or to not look at new means, because there's some part of them that's in their DNA memory that was activated just after birth or puberty that is putting them into a belief system perspective, like ignorance, intolerance, racism. A lot of that comes from unresolved lifetimes that are in your DNA memories, and you start to re-experience those as your hormones turn on. And this is when people begin to experience other past lives. Some people go to Lemuria or Atlantis or future lives, and those are, again, things that you need to resolve here, because here in the world of the separation of two worlds that is not separate, there's infinite perspectives, yet we're finite beings trying to resolve infinites.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I can just see it creating even more tension, however.
Well, again, you have that frequency in your life for a reason, honestly. Right. Is it for you to create? Is it for you to heal? Is it your project? There's all sorts of things that can intertwine with that, because you're quantumly entangled on so many levels.
Yeah.
Which right. I call your blue body. Your blue body is when you're in the dreaming world, you return to your ancestral Dreamtime Society, which is your main soul family, and from there you see what the rest of the soul family is doing, and that's where you convert into the next dimensional experience, which is your blue body. And your blue body functions on all dimensions and time streams at once, and is what connects you into all of your past, present, and future lives. We actually are living all of those lives simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And that's the crux of this awakening. It's coming to this personal sovereignty that this I am presence, this one here now, gets to make the change. Mm-hmm. That's the honor of now, making mm-hmm. the change, the one that marks in the Akashic record, I did this.
Right.
And hopefully it's not all you got was this lousy T-shirt. I survived Earth and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, you talk about boundaries, and it's something I talk a lot about with my clients and students too, because, the question, it's a similar question that, that comes up in the, shifting the physical and doing what it takes to make that change, that we're interfacing with the world. So people often ask me, well, what do I do? Because I go to the office every day and they laugh at me when I bring my vegetable juice, and they just tell me to, eat a cookie, take M&Ms from the M&M jar, and, and there's all this office of a meeting or a business meeting, or I'm traveling, I can't do it, or I get derailed, or there's too much pressure, or the family pressure, or the friends, and it's really the same thing. And if I can tell them, look, you've got to have your boundaries, and your vegetable juice is sacred. You don't monkey with the juice. It is what it is, and you create your boundaries. It's really the same thing. It's, as you said, if you're in a situation where you have to read it once a day or several times a day, then you just do it. You do whatever it takes to make it happen, because, as you said, this is the now. This is when it has to happen. So you just have to do what it takes, because it matters.
Exactly, and the now. This is one of those philosophical debates that pontificating philosophers from around the world are going to continue to pontificate about. And this goes into the crux of much of the light worker issue too. There's so many great people out there that are stuck, that are literally stuck. And then you have people that are coming into an industry with 6 hours of training thinking they can heal people, and they're not practicing any of their own spiritual cleanliness, and in a sense making it many, many times worse. And there needs to be a general awareness of our physical and spiritual cleanliness, so that detoxify isn't your juice. You don't have to say that it's a topic you can't hurt, because everyone already accepts it. Everyone is in realization that we are so toxic that we have to make that part of our existence.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We have to look at more than just what we eat. Do you put your own energy into your food before you eat? Our consciousness creates reality.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I was going to actually mention earlier that that's one of the things that has to happen. You mentioned, in the very beginning of our conversation about growing even, your own herbs and things. And I wanted to add to that just massaging, the idea of massaging a kale salad and putting your energy into it, thinking beautiful thoughts, or growing your sprouts, even just eating in a very, making that sacred. We have to, intimacy is the same, whether it's sexual intimacy or eating. There are two major orifices there that you're basically changing your biochemistry, and your biochemistry, of course, is influencing your spirituality and everything. So it's as intimate as sex when we get down to consumption through food and drink and substances coming through there. So that's one aspect that we're going to, among many of our goals, in terms of what we want to deliver in our content through the New Earth portal in the wellness category, is this sacred consumption, and that will also really decrease a lot of people's problems, because if they're not eating mindlessly, they're not going to consume the same things, and they're not going to consume them in the same way. And we have so much that we look forward to bringing people in terms of, we're kind of talking about everything very broadly right now, but I just want to assure anyone who's listening that we're going to be specific guidance on how to get from point A to point B, from how to get from the base metal, the lead, to the gold, how to cross that transition bridge, what to do at each stage, what things are really useful, what things you could kind of leave that aren't as helpful. We want to really get you there. So look forward to that. Know that we're going to bring that to you. And if there's anything that that is left out of the conversation at any stage, please let us know, because we want to make sure that every gap and every question is answered, every gap is filled.
Well, that's wonderful. And let's see here. We've got about 50 minutes left in the show. Do you want to take a break right now?
Sure.
Okay. Santi, why don't we go to break, and when we come back, we'll finish up, and we'll get some really good conversations in.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And we're live.
And welcome back, everyone, to New Earth Nation Radio Primetime. And we are continuing our conversation with Natalia Rose, head of the Health and Wellness Foundation. Welcome back. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Andrew. It's really remarkable to be with you. This has so far been a very, very powerful journey the last couple of hours.
From Michael Tellinger to contract revocations to now we've got the final 30 minutes of this incredible interview. So let's talk Divine Feminine. Let's share that source code here of what Divine Feminine can do in today's society and how it can be defined.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll speak just from my perspective. I'm not sure I can define it as such, but I will say that there is a divine loop, and having two daughters and a son, but focusing on my daughters for a moment, there's this loop of me kind of reconnecting with all the things that the earth and the woman and the man as well. I mean, the men have their divine feminine aspect as women have their divine male aspect. But in clearing all the rubbish out, all the old paradigm rubbish, you get back in touch with what it really means to be a woman and to give birth in a sacred way, and to to menstruate in a sacred way, and to many things that came up in the revocation that I just read of the divine feminine. Our sexuality, all of that, we have to realign that with the divine feminine, and as we bring in the next generation, because it's so much of the divine feminine is about it's incubation, it's recreation, it's the cycles of life. So it has to be from grandmother to mother to child, creating this divine loop, and we have to heal only by moving beyond. I don't like to say rejecting, but moving beyond the medical paradigm with its birth control pills and its tampons and its HRT, the hormones that women take after menopause and during menopause, and all this manipulation of the body. Now, the innately feminine. So we have, even in a man, the body is the feminine aspect. It's the form. So we've got spirit, we've got form. So the masculine is the spirit, the female is the form. So we have to remove all of these things that are that have infiltrated the body that don't belong there. Forget about the food and the drink for a second, but all these other things that are not in alignment with the divine feminine. And so when I think about my daughters, for example, I don't want them to be misguided about how to perceive their menstruation and their sexuality and all of that. So the mothers, as the center point, need to be realigned first in order for that to happen. So the very big part of the New Earth Wellness area is going to be reestablishing the more well-guided, higher approach to conception, to sexuality, birthing, nursing, caring for baby in all of its stages, so that we don't, without interruption, it all has to happen. The conception has to be aligned so that the baby can come through in a certain way. It all has to be reconnected. We're going to try and bring that sacred divine loop back into it, to complete it in this, in everything that we're bringing through in New Earth Wellness. That's a very important.
Oops, sorry there. I was muted there a second. That's an amazing statement, the sacred feminine. Let's talk about connecting to the roots of the sacred feminine, and what sort of things can you perceive or maybe come to dreaming concept about that women can do in these different communities that the New Earth Nations are going to come together. We could talk, special sacred feminine festivals where people are able to come in and have some of the different healing experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Are you there?
Yeah, I lost you for a second.
Okay, I think we're having some kind of Skype issue here.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Here we go. So let's talk a little bit more about sacred feminine. What sort of work are you doing now when you're helping women, for example? What's the kind of common thing that you're teaching them to reconnect to their sacred feminine?
Well, I think, first of all, I don't know that I spell out this is how you're going to connect with your sacred feminine. That's not really the language I use in my own practice, but I love that language. But I think it's more about, for me, it's more about getting women to talk to each other honestly, because one of the biggest things that has messed up is the lack of communication. So women are all about competition, which is not an inherent feminine trait at all. It's I would say it may be a masculine trait, but it's a perverse masculine trait. It's not a human trait, because as Michael Tellinger was saying earlier, we're not meant to be in competition with each other. Our instincts are to help each other. So that is one of the really skewed things that's happened with women. We are not in competition with each other. We have to really own that. We have to overcome this competitive urge. But that competitive urge comes from fear. The competitive instinct or reflex, I should say, comes from fear. The fear of maybe not having a partner because someone else is going to get him or something like that, and you need to be more beautiful in order to get him, and then you wind up contaminating yourself with toxins in order to look a certain way to snag the guy you want, who's just in order, and then you're going to wind up having a toxic womb and have a child with issues. So the whole thing is totally corrupt and convoluted. But I think most importantly, we have got to start new communication, new ways of communicating. We have to, the message of natural childbirth and home birth has to get out there, and it is. I mean, more and more people are speaking out about it. But first, women have to be brave themselves to step out of the fear of not giving birth in a hospital, and then talking about maybe not using tampons, or at least not using toxic tampons. And sorry if this is too much to air on air, but it's these things have got to come out in the open, and women have to sit around the fire together, or around the table, or around somehow. They've got to sit down and talk to each other about these things, and share the alternatives. Because we can't just say, don't do this. We have to say, well, and this is actually better, and this is easier, and this will feel better, and and this will parlay in all areas of your life in a more favorable way. So the communication is so key wherever we are. If it's at a festival or not at a festival, we've got to start, and we've got to stop competing. In fact, I envision a world where we will be judged based on how beautiful we can make our sister look. Like, how gorgeous can we take her over and make her look so beautiful, rather than how beautiful can we make ourselves?
Exactly. How beautiful can we make ourselves?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having more Skype issues here. Okay. 1 second here.
But, and then also just with Divine Feminine, everything we do to go back to the plant-based diet is honoring the sacred feminine. However, I would also remind everyone that commercial farming is one of the most devastating things we've done to the planet. So it can't just be, I'm eating organic greens and I'm having a plant-based diet. We have to get back to, if anyone's read the Anastasia books, I highly recommend them if you have.
I highly recommend those books, too. They're outstanding. And when I spoke with Andrew Miller yesterday, and he's putting on the community gardens and centers and stuff, and he absolutely in agreement, too. It's the big farms have taken over the world and taken the mom-and-pop farms over here away, and you don't have fresh food. People could be juicing. Juicing is a little bit more expensive if you don't know what you're doing, but it's tremendously beneficial to the body to have a juicing. You can cut your coffee down, cut the amount of carbs down and switch to juicing, and you can do some amazing changes in your body.
Yeah, and the point I wanted to make with the Anastasia books is that they talk about having these individual plots and not just deforesting so that we can be raising killing the bunnies for our bunny food, which is ludicrous. So we basically destroy whole habitats to make plant food. And that's not the kind of plant food we want to eat. Ultimately, we want to be moving in a direction away from big farms to personal gardens. And first of all, we do not need the amount of food we think we need. So that alone is something that most people find hard to contend with, because most people use food for pleasure because they're so miserable and they need as much, it numbs them as long as they're eating. In fact, if you like burn yourself or something, you can, when the moment, even if you're in pain, the moment that food is on your palate, you'll forget about
eating. Right.
food.
That's just the feral side of your adrenal glands, and how much in survival mode you've been in, not from just this lifetime. It could be many lifetimes that are affecting your adrenal glands. When you're born into a physical body, there are times that you're born into a DNA lineage that's not your first choice. For you to get the combination of soul families in your 1 degree of separation so you can have that life, you have to take on concepts that are DNA lineages that are not of your lineage, that have all this ancestral karma built up into them. And it makes it very tough for people to reconnect. Really, really, really tough for people to reconnect if they're unaware that there are certain precursors that they have coming in, and that until they're aware of habit patterns, they'll be overeating or undereating or acting out of an adrenal gland and survival response, and really think that there's nothing wrong with it because that's the way they've lived their whole life.
Yeah, exactly. So we need far less than we think we need, and so we really can have all of our needs met with a small garden, and on the plot of land where we live. Ultimately, is the best way to go. And in the Anastasia books, there's this beautiful concept they explain, where you basically take the seed that you're about to sow and you place it under your tongue, and the seed receives all the information that it needs in order to best nourish you, so that whatever it grows, whatever sprouts from the seed, is going to have exactly what you specifically and your family need to balance, keep your body in balance and healthy and strong. So you actually want to eat the food from your garden because it knows exactly what you need. And what we're having is this highly diluted. It doesn't have the soil itself is so depleted. Of course, we've got all the chemtrail, heavy metals stuff in it. It's just what we're consuming isn't even food at the end of the day. It's some sort of diluted version of food, and it's having all life on the planet in order to deliver us foods for our pleasure, nourishment. It's all just upside down and backwards. But it can be remedied.
Exactly.
There is an answer.
Right, and that answer comes back to self-time, self-nurturing, self-healing.
Right.
That's what I call the hard work in spiritual development. I get so many people that want to come and be students, and I explain to them, if you have self-healing, self-nurturing skills, there's no chance for you to survive with the skill sets that are required, because to do the work at this level, especially for Natalia, you have to process the energies that are around you, and if you don't, it builds up, and your life will not work for you. You'll have things that are just going wrong because you're bringing so many of these chaotic frequencies within you. And when you begin to have boundaries, declare through revocation to say, no, I don't want these frequencies in and around me, then you begin to have that sacred space to expand and explore, or to dream and become a consciousness explorer.
Mm-hmm. Right. It makes me think that people also really need to understand the value of this. Like, in many ways, it can be, if you've got all the right kind of support to live in the old paradigm, it can be very seductive to stay there. And unless you have a strong reason to do things otherwise, you'll tend to go with the flow, unless you're, really down and out in revolutionary mode. So I guess what I want to share, too, is just that there's this incredible experience, and you know this experience, Andrew, you experienced it yourself, this value that really, if someone were to say to you, would you rather have $10 million or this experience every day of your life, there would be no question. You just kind of laugh at the person saying, would you like $10 million or this? It's a joke,
It's a joke, exactly.
You feel it, so even if you haven't gotten there, if someone who's listening hasn't gotten there yet and isn't feeling that beautiful visceral hum and feeling that freedom that comes with this kind of sovereignty, know that it's there. Even if you haven't gotten there yet, it's waiting for you. If you can trust the process, you'll have something that's of so far greater value that no one can ever take away from you.
And that's the experience.
Yeah, it's a life experience, and it's where you get to be. And at the end of the day, you have to wake up with yourself every morning, and it's very difficult sometimes to to overcome the temptations every day for the choice that might be a little bit more just require a little more asceticism, more of like a monastic kind of a lifestyle. But at the end of the day, you're in bliss. And I remember when I was a kid, I would think about people who are living the spiritual life, and I think, gosh, it sounds really boring. Like, what do they do all day? And now I'm thinking, why do I have to do all this other stuff? I just want to sit here in bliss. Like, why do I have to do that? So it's all about perspective, and your perspective really shifts when you feel that bliss running through you.
And then after a while, this is something that I run in regularly with the clientele that I read. There are leftover belief systems from young adult and pre-puberty times that truly affect the adult people. And this is what causes rebellious or chaotic times in us, because that younger version of us had a much smaller understanding, a much smaller perspective of the world. And then as we get our driver's license and our whole experience changes, many times the innocent inner child, to get to that frequency, there's certain things that you have to do that were reflective of the type of person you were at that age. Which, if you're a 6-year-old and then you're 36 years old, you don't realize how that manifests in your 36-year-old personality, and that creates habit patterns that constantly put you at odds with the inner child.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah,
I mean, you forget who that person is, but then you start to remember when you feel that energy coming back.
And that's why boundaries are so important, so you can feel again. There are so many people I meet that their parasympathetic body and their visceral body is virtually shut down. That the power of the touch it could take seconds to affect them instead of instantly. And when you're that shut down that you can't feel the energy in your feet or feel the energy in your back, you have to know something's wrong. Or for those, single mothers out there, that their shoulders are like concrete. There's a reason your neck and shoulders are like concrete. There is a difference between the heart and the heart and the heart and the brain. And you're stuck between the two worlds of the 3D matrix and raising a child naturally. And your heart is saying to love all this, but your mind is saying you've got to pay the bills. And this separation is what's creating that concrete in that neck. And when you have sacred space where that battle is between the heart and the brain doesn't exist, it's your rest point, it's your zero balance. If you don't have that in you, it makes it very, very difficult to cope.
Yeah. And do you think it'd be helpful, even if people listen to this, just even think about maybe where they are feeling this concrete? And that's a great place to start with. Just see where you feel the tension. See where that contraction is.
Feet. That's the other thing. For women that are in fertility issues, that are really trying to get pregnant. I do a lot of fertility counseling, specifically for couples that have had long-term issues with the medicines and different issues with the different fetuses. A lot of them have had stillbirths and stuff like that, and there's really a spiritual issue at play there. And helping them identify the frequencies that they have when they're going through their egging stage or their sensuality stage, so that they can see what patterns are left in them that are creating a break between their parasympathetic body and their reproductive responses. Mm-hmm. And many, many women are disconnected from their menstrual cycles for so many years in a row that it creates a very difficult process for selecting a baby on the spiritual side of the resolution.
Wow. And what about men? Where?
That's another one. Mostly for men, it's getting out and clearing the field. Men, when women are trying to reproduce, will take on a lot of the extra things that the woman is doing in the dream world, so she can be in what's called holding space mode, where her heart goes into her gut instead of staying in the center, and then in the gut it goes into the stargate of the womb and connects to the 13 grandmothers of the world, which is the 13 sacred feminine spirits who are the knowledge keepers of natural birth. It's inside your DNA to how to have natural birth. There can be no medical technology, and you can have a baby born in just water, all right? And something to eventually cut the umbilical cord and then to clean the baby is with minimal things. You can have a baby anywhere. You know, the survival is how much the mother is going through toxicity, and that's why some childbirths are so difficult, because the mother must in expression scream and moan and yell, get out some spiritual toxicity that she may be taking as a energy hit so that the baby can be born. Okay, I see this in the equine industry. I work with horses and I do healings on horses, and horses are so much a part of a dream time of the owners. So when I work with the owners, essentially I'm working with the horses at the same time. And a recent client had a horse that got injured very, very, very badly, and that horse had literally jumped into the dream world of the person and defended them from a nightmare situation. And I had, identified it in the dream and helped them understand why this horse was entangled on a dreamtime level, because we're all interactive. We all hold some contract genetically or karmically to each other to be here, and we are a unity species. It's just the us now doesn't see it.
Mm-hmm. Right. That makes sense.
So sacred feminine, you got to come back to identifying your menstrual cycles. That's for the most of the fertility issues. And then there's personal ceremonies that people can do. I call it talking to the fire. You sit down next to an outdoor fire or an indoor fire, preferably outdoor. That'll go an hour or two. And there's just you and yourself in the fire, no one to observe you. And you tell that fire your story, as if it was a friend you haven't seen in 30 years. And that's the beginning of setting inner space boundaries so that you can accept your story. And that's usually what brings the vast amount of fertility issues to an end, when the woman and then the man can do that separately, and then they can do it together, so that they're sharing a dream space once again, separate of what's holding them back in the world, which is generally an acceptance of their own personal merits and stories, making them worthy enough to have a child.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And to add to this conversation about reproduction, we must also remember that the vaccinations are a major cause of sterility, and that's something that we can actually, as we detoxify the body, we can detoxify these vaccines and the heavy metals and the radiation if we know how to do it. And we're going to share all of this on the New Earth Wellness portal too, and we'll hold classes around it and all of that. But that's really significant. That's one thing, the vaccines. And the other thing is that the ovaries and the womb, that whole area is right. It's really right up against the colon. So the colon pushes right up against the ovaries. And if you have an impacted colon, one of two things may be arising for you. One may be reproduction, and the other may be ovarian problems, like polycystic ovarian issues. So that is very, very common today. And usually all it takes is releasing what's holding in the large intestine, because it just, first of all, it should not be that impacted. It shouldn't be squishing those very delicate ovaries together. And secondly, our bodies are not meant to be septic. So how can we, and I know a lot of very toxic people wind up getting pregnant. That's a whole other subject. But, first of all, we want to make sure that the baby's womb isn't getting a lot of toxic overwhelm, and secondly, you want to make sure that there's the space and that there isn't all this congestion, especially of that septicity. Is that a word? That septicness. So to honor the baby, the potential future baby, clear that area out, do what's necessary. We talk about in the sort of the old paradigm, it's all about making the nursery all cute and pretty and with all the stuff, but no one has been focused on making sure that the womb inside, the room the baby's being incubated in, is clean and pretty. And I would recommend focusing the energy, like the idea of focusing on the relationship, not the wedding.
Do you have any contact information you'd like to give the audience, like a website or an email?
Sure. You can find my website at detoxtheworld.com. And in terms of information we have on the New Earth portal, we have a link to that, which we can share with everyone. We'll have somebody on the team send that to you. And personally, Natalia at detoxtheworld.com will come straight to me.
Okay. So what's your best recommendation for a juice recipe?
Well, I love all greens. I don't like all this. It's fine to put carrots and beets and apples and pears and all this orange and all that stuff into the juice if you want to. But if we're talking about the real purpose of juicing, it's to increase the alkalinity in our body, which will saturate and awaken, literally magnetize the accumulated acidic waste up and out of the cells and tissues. That's what we use juicing for. You can enjoy juices for whatever reason you want, but that's why I use juices. That's what I recommend juicing for. So in light of that, we want to make the focus of our juice green. And if you're a beginner, don't do the medicinal greens right away. So that the romaine, celery, cucumber, spinach, that's good enough. The more medicinal greens, like using lots of colored greens and kale, and especially medicinal greens like dandelion and watercress, are way more intense. And if you use them, they should be diluted with celery and cucumber. And then if you really want to add something sweet like apple or pear, feel free to do so. However, if you want to avoid the sugars and the fruits entirely when you're doing a green juice, if you add lemon and ginger, which that will just cut out the green taste, and then add some liquid stevia, it will taste, I promise you, like green lemonade. So the stevia can go in place of the apple or pear. If you really want to use the apple or pear and you know you're not, the reason I usually omit the apple and pear is because most people are so used to it right now, even if they don't know they're used to it. I'm talking about men too. It's just a major phenomenon because an epidemic, because the world has become so much more acidic and our soil isn't as alkaline as it should be. So as everything's reflected, as above, so below, our body's soil, our tissues and our gut flora and all of that isn't what it used to be. So we need to alkalinize more than ever, but more importantly, because of that acidity, it gives rise to pathogens, especially yeast, fungus, and mold, like never before. So all sugars, including fruit sugars, will feed that. Small amounts of stevia, if it's a good quality stevia, won't create that same effect. But you can still have the pleasure of having a green juice that tastes like lemonade. So if you want a specific recipe, I would say a head of celery, a cucumber, a bunch of spinach, a lemon, ginger, stevia. You're good to go. Very
cool. I think I'm going to try that. I'm actually a pretty big juicer. When I actually like take the extra time to juice, I'll do a juice fast 3 or 4 times a year. Actually, I'll go for like 30 days, and it's quite effective. Actually, quite effective. I just want to announce to everybody, if you go to my website, andrewbartzis.com, and sign up there, and you can get a copy of the contract revocations. We are nearing the end of the show. We've had an incredible show. We got about 6 minutes left here. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Just that we're here to serve. So, we really are so excited to have this platform to share what we know works and take people from all levels of their bondage into sovereignty. And I'm thrilled to be part of the wellness aspect of that. It's a powerful road to sovereignty.
That's awesome. Just to let everyone know, one of the New Earth Nation partners, the Whole Earth Summit, is having their 5-day summit going on now. And you can go to wholeearthsummit.org, and it's a live free show that's going on for 5 days with some amazing guests. Too many to count, probably 30 guests. Sasha's going to be on there, David McConnell, Gemma Boulos, Bob Hopkins, Jeffrey Lawton, Peter Bain. Some pretty impressive people are going to be there. So if you like this type of content here, check out the Whole Earth Summit, and it's a free online event. So that's incredible. And then tomorrow, we've got the Misha's coming up on Friday. Is going to be New Earth Nation music. And then tomorrow, I believe, is Tech Z. So everyone, we are going to cut it off early today and say this has been a show from a double dose of Tellinger to a double dose of Natalia, and we've had some amazing journeys here. And we just want to thank everybody at New Earth Nation Radio, the producer Santi, all the volunteers that are working inside New Earth Nations, everyone there. You guys are doing an amazing job, and to thank both Sasha and Greg for keeping the ship afloat, and all those other things that the people do at that level. All right, Santi, why don't you take us away, and we'll end our second episode.
Thank you. And this is Fran Pisciotti that volunteered his music to close this show. Thank you all.